What's up, everyone? This is Vitaly, and welcome to Mortal Shell Art Updates Milestone 10. This milestone is quite special in regard that this is probably the last major update on introducing completely new characters and character designs. We'll still be working on the low polys and textures and polishes and some of the customizations for the characters, but in terms of the major characters and introduction of the character designs and things like that, this might be last or one of the last milestones on that, so this is pretty exciting. Let's take a look at some of the new NPCs, some of the new enemies, some of the new props and other updates. Let's start first and foremost with the final design of the logo for the game. As you could see from that little short intro, we got a quite refined, detailed logo that we could reuse, and since this is all 3D, we could probably light it in different ways for the trailer. So you can see a few different variations of the lighting here, which could be nice to utilize. Now this is one of the new enemies that will be an introduction to the fire level enemies family. So these guys going to be pretty fun because that's pretty much a demon who's chilling in a lava hot tub kind of thing. The problem with this guy is that that's actually a ranged enemy, so this fella will just kind of take his arm and sort of shove it in his throat like elbow deep and take out some lava stuff out of it and throw it at you, and that stuff maybe even explode. And so it will essentially be like a sort of a mini tower. And just to give an idea for the just for the scale and sort of how we see it being in the level, this is a proxy model, not a final model. We're still working on a low poly, but you can kind of see this is a demon that's just pretty much just chilling there on the fire and boiling and having fun. And here's just the video of me testing whether the height is enough in terms of being able to reach. So we might be playing with the scale a little bit, but overall that's sort of the persona of this character. Next on the list would be the weapon upgrades. So what you see here is the spike upgrade for the balance sword, or the first sword that you will find in the game. And this is essentially a mechanism that has got the spike that will be shot out from the other side of the sword. Now we got the molten core with lava that will be used to infuse the lava core into the mace, the heavy staff mace lava thingy that you will be able to find when fight Hadern in the crypt level. Well, you technically fight him in the lake, but you will find the book accessing the lake from the fire level. Now this is the permafrost core that will be infused into the big crypt sword. And finally we got this incense burner that will be used to sort of take the hammer and the chisel that you found in Cathedral through this dark ritual to infuse it with all kinds of dark forces and evil things like that. Now we got finalized the low poly model as well as the textures for the sister, or in our world we call them sisters. So the sister that will become your loyal ally through your arduous journey in the world. And what you see here in terms of the eyes glow, this is just to show what kind of glow we're gonna see when you first encounter the sister. And essentially what's gonna happen is before you interact with her, she will be kind of inactive, like almost like if this is just an empty shell with no spirit in it. And whenever you activate her by interacting with her, you will see her eyes glow kind of in this really bright spark, and then they will kind of dim, and then she will be sort of animated and alive, able to speak with you and allow you to purchase upgrades and do all kinds of useful stuff for your shell that will make your shell stronger, and just generally more resilient to the challenges, the world of the game. And so essentially she's kind of like a bonfire, right? That with in terms of the waypoint system and things like that. So next is a really fun NPC that will be our merchant. You can buy all kinds of cool stuff from this guy, and he'll have bolts for Ballistazuka. You can buy a bunch of tasty rats from him, and he will be also bigger than the player, and I don't think anybody will dare to attack this guy, but if you will, you're gonna get punished. Yeah, so right now he's standing on this kind of platform thing that is part of the tower architecture. It's kind of empty right now because right now it's just a character, but we are working on the props for him to kind of build this set around him and art it out a little bit. And the props will include the chest that where he keeps his treasure. And since he's a very polite gentleman kind of guy, he'll try to invite you for a cup of tea or for a shot of tea. This is the tea set, and he's also famous for brewing the really fine superior moonshine in his distillery. So this is the distillery, and the most gourmet moonshine he makes using frogs. So this right here is the frog module, the infamous frog module that Slav the merchant is using to distill some of the really good stuff. This is one of the sculptures that will be really huge, and you will see it in the cathedral level. Beautiful sculpture by Dmitry that will fit in the level quite well, and I think it's already in the level, so you might even be able to see it in the next build, perhaps. And speaking of cathedral, this guy right here will be one of the brothers that will be this elite guard defending the cathedral. And this is the halberd bro, and there will be also a sword guy that we're doing some final tweaks to him in terms of the texture. It's kind of similar to this guy, but he has some also obsidian pieces on him. So we're finalizing that one, and it's already in engine, but probably we'll show it in the next update, so you can see closer the elements. The idea is to continue to use the black and gold theme of the cathedral. And finally, I think this is the last update on this list, is the new NPC, new and last NPC that will be also part of the main tower NPC family, the so-called Bellkeeper. I mean, this is just like a temporary name that we use, because the idea for this guy is, as soon as you return back to the Darkfather with the first gland, you will the gland that you will have, and essentially killing the revered creature, will summon the fog, not just in the call, but all the way throughout the fulgrim, and you will be called by Father, who will be ringing the bell, and that bell will become essentially your beacon and your guidance to make sure you really reach the tower through the fog while fighting vampires and Grishas and all kinds of different Grishas. No, it's gonna be just one kind of Grisha, but other enemies perhaps. And what's gonna happen is that as soon as you bring the gland back, this person will appear. This is a dark cultist that is not very clear if he's friendly or not friendly, but he's got a peculiar thing about the bells, and what's gonna happen, the player will discover that this person can also control the weather. He can control the appearance and disappearance of the fog, and it might be the case that you can sort of ask him or maybe pay him a price to get the fog back in the Fulgrim, just so you can go and explore the fog chest and find hidden treasure that is only accessible while you're in the fog. And maybe you could even bring some of this treasure back to him for a special reward. Currently we're thinking maybe it could be this NPC could be standing next to the bell outside of the tower, right next to it. But this will be defined. Like, still we need to test what's the better position in terms of the level testing and gameplay and the flow. But one thing we liked about this is this NPC and the way it appears in the game is that it doesn't show up right at the beginning of the game, and it shows up after you defeat the first boss, after you clear out the first cult. So essentially, like after the player already got familiar himself or herself with the world, and the NPC shows up a little bit later, and therefore showing this sort of progression of the tower's NPC, make it feel more real, make it feel more like it's a real place. And there's new NPCs that come, and so we really think that this will help to make the place, solidify the place as the central hub, and it's important and it's meaningful to the game. So we're pretty excited about introducing this NPC, even though we never really planned him to use this NPC initially. But as we started testing and iterating on gameplay, we realized that the fog mechanic is both a great opportunity, but also tricky in terms of the balance when we trigger it and where we turn it off and things like that. So having something or someone that could help us to initiate the fog mechanic and as well as dissipate the fog back to the normal Fulgrim state would be ideal. So this is the design we went with. So this is just a high poly model. We're still working on the low poly. Actually, we just started working on low poly, but next milestone we'll have it done with textures and everything. But you can kind of see already the breakdown of materials. We can see the sort of this rusty gold bells and where the candle's gonna be. And speaking of candles, let me just kind of go back real quick. This whole moonshine setup that will be standing next to the Vlas the merchant, right? We will see like a few candles below the distillery apparatus, and maybe even have like a candle on the chest, and like have also a candle on this little, like little plate here, to make the whole place a little bit more cozy. Maybe put like a torch somewhere on the wall here, just to make the whole place look a little bit more alive, and perhaps make it more of a place where the player would be feeling compelled to return to buy some useful items. And also we want to use this chest in some other levels to just have some more items variety, or maybe have some special items in this chest. It's a bit more detailed and maybe looks a little bit more expensive as the previous chest in terms of like the amount of used metal, and it looks a little more hard, like more solid, so that could be useful as well. So I think that's pretty much it for this update. We also have done quite a bit of stuff and just overall polish on like little details here and there for the characters and textures and a bunch of other things. It's been quite a journey. I hope you've been enjoying the progress so far, and thank you for your time. I'll see you next time.